This afternoon, the former President John Dramani Mahama has officially announced his comeback to the front line of Ghana's politics, insisting he is the best person to lead the National Democratic Congress into the next presidential elections next year. As he launched his campaign in the party's stronghold, the Volta region today, he indicated his focus is to address the economic crisis facing the country and one that the NDC cannot risk presenting a candidate without the wherewithal to confront the challenges head on.
This most depressing phase in our history, where our economy has been destroyed because of the systematic mismanagement, misguided and clueless policy choices and the incompetence of President Nana Akufo-Addo and his Vice President Mahamudu Bawumia. While our people struggle to keep their heads above water, government officials continue to exhibit high levels of greed, corruption, arrogance of power, dishonesty, blatant state capture, and conflict of interest. Unsurprisingly, no one in this MPP government wants to take responsibility for anything, including their flag-bearer hopefuls, most of whom were part of the economic management team, the team that was called the solid team. Today, everybody is running from taking responsibility. They continue to lay blame for their disastrous economic management on external factors, whose relationship with our present sorry circumstances are at most tenuous. We all know that this economic collapse has been years in the making, just as we know it was entirely avoidable.
Well, that was, of course, in apparent reference to those candidates who've cited and actually signaled their interest to contest him for the NDC Flagbearer Race. We have a lot of individuals contesting, Mr. Krobia himself, Kujopuntu, and the man tipped to give Mr. John Dramani Mahama a run for his money, Dr. Kwabena Dufo. We have a reaction for you. Right now, though, let's focus on the plans he says he has for the country. He says he intends to reduce ex-gratia beneficiaries and also scrap it for some.
Our country at this time urgently needs a leader with an unwavering desire to get things done in a no-frills, no-thrills, business-like manner. Not one enamored with sloganeering, excessive partisanship, personal comfort, and shallow populism. Ghana's next leader should exercise sound judgment and be able to make the right calls at the right time. A leader who accepts responsibility and works to fix the problem, and not one who shifts blame onto others. The leader should be one whose heart is filled with compassion for the people and who has the humility to connect with and understand the needs of the people he serves. Our country requires a visionary leader who will build a prosperous and progressive Ghana for all Ghanaians and not just a few family and friends. We in the NDC will not run a government of slogans. Instead, we will run a government of action. As a leader, you should be held accountable for your promises to the people. Your word should always be your bond. Ghana's next leader should exercise sound judgment and be able to make the right calls, as I said, at the right time. Such a leader must continue, and for emphasis, have the humility and presence of mind to take responsibility. And as I said, in this government, nobody wants to take responsibility for anything that goes wrong. Our next leader should be a leader whose heart is filled with compassion, as I said, for the people who he has the humility to connect with and understand. He should not be a leader who views the public purse as a family japadier, or in English, heirloom, or even the mandate given to him by Ghanaians to govern. He must not view it as a manifestation of his birthright.
Well, Felix Ofosu-Kwesi, spokesperson for the former president, John Mahama. Before we start our conversation with him, there's a list of those who benefit from the ex gratia that we want to share with you. That's on your screens right now. You have the president, the vice speaker of parliament, cabinet ministers. We also do have ministers and non-MPs, non-MP ministers as well. We have members of parliament, and we have the members of the Council of State. But then, Felix, welcome to the show. Thank you for your time. So when the president says, the former president indicates that he's going to, of course, review the ex gratia payment, where is he going to start from?
You would have to raise your voice a bit. I can hardly hear you.
Yeah, I was just asking about at what point, what's the starting point for the John Mahama campaign, if indeed you're successful and you get the nod to come back into power? Where are you starting off from in terms of reviewing the ex gratia payments?
Well, work on it will start the very first day President Mahama takes office. As you may be aware, ex gratia is catered for under Article 71. Even though the Constitution does not expressly mention ex gratia, it speaks about the emolument package of members of government who are captured under Article 71. So that provision makes room for the appointment of a committee to determine the emolument of officers classified as Article 71 officeholders. So often, it is that committee that makes the recommendation for the wages and salaries and conditions of service of people like that. And then the payment of ex gratia, which is a lump sum payment, often calculated on the basis of 4 months' salary for every year service. Now, the way to go about it is to either amend this provision in the Constitution or put in place guidelines and regulations that do not conflict with the Constitution in order to prevent the committee that is set up from recommending the payment of ex gratia. But as a first step, President Mahama is going to ensure that to the extent that he has direct control over his appointees who form the executive, none of those appointees, irrespective of what position they occupy in government, would be permitted or allowed to take ex gratia, which is a lump sum payment given to people who are classified as Article 71 office holders. Then the Constitutional Review Commission's work, which began under President Mills, but which sadly has not been continued by this government, will be seen to fruition. There is some work that went on in respect of Article 71 benefit in that Constitutional Review Commission's work. It will be seen to fruition, and where there are shortfalls, it will be strengthened and concluded so that this particular provision can be removed in order that ex gratia payments are stopped. When that happens, then members of parliament and members of the judiciary would then not be in a position to benefit from ex gratia payment. So if you ask me about how this is going to be done, this is exactly what I have thought out for you.
Are you mindful of the constitutional inhibitions? For instance, the committee, the presidential committee that's supposed to make the recommendations, those recommendations or whatever it is that they will tell you would have to be binding according to the spirit of the Constitution. Are you mindful of that?
Of course, that is why I spoke, and indeed, President Mahama, if you listen carefully to speak, the speech is available. So perhaps after some time, we can take it and read it for yourself. He states clearly that there will be constitutional amendments to reflect this promise that he has made. Also, as I've indicated, the Constitution does not recommend the payment of ex gratia. It only speaks about the determination of the conditions of service and emolument of the 71 office holders. It is a committee that is set up to do this that then recommends the payment of ex gratia. So if the committee does not recommend it, it will not be paid. Number two, there's nobody who can be forced to take ex gratia. If you are entitled to something and refuse to take it, nobody can force it on you. Indeed, we saw sometime last year when Flagbearer Fede returned the ex-gratia that he was paid. So no appointee of President Mahama who serves in the executive will take ex-gratia, even if the constitution has not been amended or the process has not been completed as of the time that the time is due for ex-gratia payment. But the constitution review process will be seen to fruition in the period between 2025 and 2029. That God willing, President Mahama will become the president of Ghana. So yes, President Mahama is mindful of the constitutional provision, and that is why he has indicated exactly how this will be done once he becomes president.
Of course, all of that will be made possible if the delegates of the party give the opportunity to John Dramani Mahama to lead them once again. And he's been making a clarion call indicating that you need, as a party now, someone who's been tried and tested. Experience, not experiment. Why is he making those claims?
Well, I mean, that reflects the enormity of the task ahead. Now, President Mahama is not under any illusion whatsoever about the sort of damage that the Akufo-Addo Bawumia president has inflicted on our country, especially our economy. Our country is impacted. Our economy is completely destroyed. They have systematically dismantled any prospect that we had as a country. And they have left us there. We have unsurmountable debt that we will not be able to pay for several generations to come. They are implementing very terrible policies like the debt estate, which is depriving millions of Ghanaian bondholders of billions of Ghana cedis that constitute their lives, savings, and investments. We all know the sort of economic difficulties and hardships that Ghanaians are going through and how that is affecting their quality of life. So President Mahama knows how daunting the task is. It is the reason why he makes the point that in order to tackle this sort of daunting task, you need an experienced man. You need somebody who has been tried and tested, somebody who will be unfazed by the magnitude of the problem, somebody who would not have to learn the ropes of government because you will simply not have the time or the resources for that to happen. You need somebody who is familiar with the terrain, someone who has been at the helm of government and has had the opportunity to sit back, observe, and reflect, and determine what needs to be done going forward in order to reset our country, pull it back from the brink of collapse, pull it back from the precipice on which it is perilously hanging at the moment, and place it on the path of growth and sustainable development. That is what President Mahama promises. And that is the sort of experience and steady hand that he brings to this ticket of the National Democratic Congress for the 2024 election.
Right, but then the belief is, if indeed the NDC would want to make that point forcefully, there are some calls that you put up a fresh face, someone who would have the support of John Dramani Mahama.
First of all, what you need is someone who can do the job. Whether the face is fresh or unfresh, is completely immaterial. So if you have a field of candidates, you look among them to see who can get the job done. If the person is 21 years old, 41 years old, 51 years old, 70 years old, and can do the job, it does not matter how old he or she is. So the issues about freshness for me is neither here nor there. Indeed, if you look at President Mahama's closest competitor, Dr. Fabinado Four, he cannot be described by any stretch of the imagination to be a fresh kid. He's not a fresh kid. With the greatest respect to him, he is 80 years old. How do you describe an 80-year-old as a fresh kid? President Mahama is considerably younger than he, but happens to have tremendous experience that will come in handy in the management of a country that is as broken away. So that, for me, should be the material argument, and not about whether the person's face is fresh or wrinkled.
Okay, Felix, just hold the lines for us briefly, because the Do4 campaign disagree with the former president. Antonio Edem Ashino speaks for the campaign. And Edem, you've just been hearing from Felix. He talks about the fact that, in fact, your candidate cannot be described as a new face. Kindly unmute for me so I can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Loud and clear.
Oh, thank you. Good afternoon to you and good afternoon to Felix and to your viewers as well. Is Dr. Dufo a new face? Certainly not a new face in Ghana, but he's going to be a fresh, trusted hand to handle the affairs of this party.
Felix disagrees with you on that score.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I can speak to the issue. I mean, this is a man who, as finance minister, aside performing excellently, never took salary. This is a man, as finance minister and a member of the NDC, gave his gratia back. So, in fact, what they want to do now is something he's done before. So, when we're talking about experience, he's lived it. I mean, we saw the endorsement the country gave Toby Afede when he returned his gratia. This is a gentleman who did it in the quiet, and they know it. So, in terms of principle, in terms of someone that we can trust to deliver these things that they are promising, he's already doing it and he's going to do it. And that is where the argument of experience comes in. He's experienced what it takes, because all of them have held political office before. Did they take their salary? Did they take their gratias? They can't speak to it. But I'm telling you on authority, with a specific claim being made now, in terms of major promise that we are hearing now, Dr. Dufo, as a public servant, did not take his salary. When he was given his gratia, as a matter of principle, he handed over the his gratia back for development. So yes, those calls are good. But it's something that Dr. Dufo is doing already, and when we are going to talk about experience, that is where it's for. Experience under him.
Adam, let's get a quick response on that. Felix, the question about former President John Dramani Mahama being imposed all this while, he's enjoyed the same ex gratia he wants to scrap. What then should give us that sense of hope that indeed he'll stick to his words?
Well, to begin with, Dr. Dufo has not promised to scrap his gratia. He has said nothing about his gratia. So whether he took salary or did not take salary is completely immaterial. In any event, it is not entirely true that Dr. Dufo did not take salary. What he did was that he had been governor of the Bank of Ghana. And the governor of the Bank of Ghana has better conditions of service than the finance minister. What happened is that the governor of the Bank of Ghana retires on his salary and gets some of the benefits of the governor, of the present governor. So he made a choice between the package as finance minister and the package as governor. And he chose to stick with his entitlements as governor, even as he had retired from that position. So that distinction must be made. It is quite misleading to create the impression that he was working for free. He was not. He was still getting his conditions of service as governor, even in retirement, as all past governors do. The other point is that he has never said anywhere that he will scrap ex gratia. So what Ghanaians are looking for is a leader who will stop the payment of ex gratia, not a leader who has not taken ex gratia. That distinction must clearly be drawn. When his opponent has made a promise, you must take your position on the matter at hand. Does Dr. Dufo believe that ex gratia payment should be scrapped or not? Personal charity or a personal decision not to take something is separate from a policy position that does not ensure that the thing is paid to all official service bank officials. So that must be put on record.
Okay. Beyond that, you know that the race is heating up, and
can I come in, my brother?
Yeah, just go ahead then.
Okay, I mean, Felix does not dispute the fact that Dr. Dufo did not take his ex gratia. But Dr. Dufo indeed has demonstrated that the argument of ex gratia, or the Ghanaians basically not liking political office holders taking ex gratia, is something he does not believe in. So as whether it's policy matter or not, is neither here nor there. He's demonstrated in his personal capacity that he did not take ex gratia when he was entitled to. So that, for me, should speak to the principle. Secondly, Felix talks about Dr. Dufo deciding on the policy position. This contest is a grassroots contest, and Dr. Dufo's focus is on the grassroots. He's promised to restore the Hero Fund. He's promised to build regional offices for their party. He's promised to give decent offices to the parties. This is an NDC presidential contest, and he believes that strengthening the grassroots is what the focus should be.
And beyond the NDC, you have a country to fix.
Sure, the country to fix, and Dr. Dufo has given the roadmap. He's told you that within 2 years, he's going to put us back on recovery. What a leader does when he meets or inherits anything, whether narrow fiscal space or small fiscal space, is to create the fiscal space. Dr. Dufo assisted as finance minister to create the needed fiscal space in 2009. And he's saying that he's going to create the fiscal space, and within the second year, this country will see prosperity. That's a leader who knows how to do it. And that's the leader who has the experience on what because you need a fiscal space to build the rules and build all the development you are talking about. So it's not about constitutional review or continuing projects. What is needed is opening up the fiscal space, and this is a leader who knows how to build up a fiscal space for us to develop as a country.
Okay.
So beyond it being the political contest, he knows what is needed to fix the country, particularly the challenge that we have, which is economy.
Okay, let's listen to some Ghanaians on the streets of Accra, because Joy News has been asking them about, and not just Ghanaians, we'll get to that, but even MPs have been reacting to this announcement by John Mahama today that the ex gratia will be scrapped once he becomes president. Let's listen in, and Felix, I'll take your thoughts on this.
It's well abreast about the constitution in Ghana. And Article 71 is entrenched constitution provisions that if you want to scrap it, you have to amend it through referendum. So maybe, I don't know where he's picking the provisional from the constitution, but I'm saying that John Mahama has launched his campaign. NDC, they don't have anybody who can finance their campaign. That's why they are bringing him. But Ghanaians know what John Mahama did for Ghana. And I don't think he's bringing any new ideas. That's the old story that he's come to repeat. He has an opportunity to rule this country for 8 years. Just 4 years, he couldn't manage Ghana, providing 24 lights for Ghana. He couldn't. And today he's telling us that he's bringing a new ideas. What ideas again John Mahama is bringing to Ghana? Come and repeat the Doomsaw, scrap the nurses allowance, teachers allowance.
I mean, if you say benefits, you have been here with me. I don't know the benefits they are talking about, but I'm here too. Because I know certain Article 71 people enjoy housing. I don't enjoy housing. You know that. I mean, they are police. I mean, they retire on their salaries. I don't retire on my salary. You know that. Indeed, they get fuel coupons. You know I don't get fuel coupon. You and I, you always come to me and I tell you, we need to go and buy. I get it. They have paid drivers. You know, I don't have a paid driver. So if it's Article 71, well, he has been there before. He knows what is in it. I'm sure he knows the package. I am here to experience the package. They said there's an ex-gratia. I just realized that there's no anything called ex-gratia. I've been here for 3-4 years. They've not even increased my salary for just a month. But they've increased every public servant's salary. It doesn't mean, of course. So at the end of the year, if they say, oh, we increase your salary and get this, that's not as gratia. But I also think it's a good call. I mean, we need to review some parts of our constitution. And it's an area that I think we need to review to be able to get the balance. Because sometimes, obviously, some of the waste also goes through those places. And if we can review it, because it's an entrenched clause. So we need to do a referendum and do all that before we can get it. So if we can be able to get it, fine.
Action of some members of parliament. Felix, your take on that?
Well, I mean, you expect the NDC to be as pedantic, pedestrian, and as ridiculous as the IMP out. President Mahama, the former, as president, was vastly superior to anything Akufo-Addo and Bawumia have provided. And the records show it. There's not one single metric in which this MPV government has better than President Mahama. So even on his past record alone, he deserves to have this Akufo-Addo Bawumia government putted out at the earliest opportunity for them to be replaced by a government led by President Mahama. The second point is that President Mahama has made firm commitments about scrapping ex-gratia and implementing sweeping, far-reaching political governance and economic reform. And therefore, that shows that Ghana is going to have much better management than they are having now. Now, let me respond quickly to something that Adam stated before you play those. He says, Dr. Dufo says, he will create fiscal space. You see, this is a contest between reality and fantasy. And if you are not careful, you have the very thing that the NPP has done, making wild promises they had absolutely no idea how to fix. First of all, it appears that Dr. Dufo has not taken the trouble to properly assess the state of the economy that we are dealing with. You see, the economy that he managed as finance minister is a far cry from what we have today. At the time he became finance minister, our public debt was just 9 billion Ghana. Today, our public debt is 600 billion Ghana. Dr. Dufo was paying only millions in debt servicing per annum. Today, we are paying close to 70 billion Ghana per annum to service our debt. So he must be realistic and stop creating the impression that he has a magic wand to create certain fiscal space. That fiscal space simply does not exist because of the situation that we are in. And it is that reality that President Mahama is confronting and indicating that rather than bring on board new projects, it will be more prudent to complete existing ones so that you are not stretched thin in terms of resources and the ability to finance the budget, so that we do not fall back into this debt hole that we have been plunged into. Dr. Dufo has not told us how he claims to, what they call it, be able to create the fiscal space that he's talking about. What that simply means is that we get a certain amount of money annually, and we use a certain portion of that. In 2021, we used 92% of our tax earnings to service debt. That is mandatory and obligatory. We cannot do anything about it. The rest will go into the payments of salaries and statutory funds. So any government taking over, that tells you that you will have fiscal space, is simply dreaming. We are engaging in fantasy. And it is important that such claims are scrutinized. The other point is that he claims that this is an internal concept, so there's no need to have a national competition. We said to differ. Look, there's no doubt about the fact that President Mahama will emerge as victor by an overwhelmingly wide margin in this primary. But as we speak, the most important thing that is on the minds of Ghanaians, including NDC delegates, is how we are going to resolve the catastrophic national situation that we are in at the moment. And it is those things that President Mahama is speaking to. He is not going into this with a tunnel vision, just grab some juicy promises for NDC delegates and with their mandate and not be able to do anything at the national level. For him, it is far important to have that national competition at the very beginning, so that everybody, including NDC delegates who are Ghanaians, are clear in their mind what we have to offer them in the event that it comes first. In any event, we are going to elect a flag bearer because we want the NDC to come to power under the leadership of a president that has come out of our stock. So we are not just focused on sprinkling promises to NDC delegates, who in any event have made up their mind to return President Mahama to the slot. We think that anybody who wants to lead Ghana right at the onset must place his policy and programs on the table for scrutiny. That is why we have identified the waste in government as one of the reasons why we have not been able to make the sort of progress we need to make. So President Mahama's prescription for that problem is to downsize government to a level where we have only about 60 ministers and deputy ministers. He has indicated that the legion of staff at the office of the president will become the thing of the past. He has said that our resources will be managed prudently. There will be no new major capital projects until and unless the existing and pipeline ones are completed. He has spoken about broad governance, political and economic reform. He has spoken about investments in agriculture, industry, telecommunications, energy, tourism, digital and the digital sector, and what have you. He has spoken about local participation in the Ghanaian economy. He has spoken about restoring confidence in the financial sector. And then he has spoken about strengthening state institutions so that they can deliver modern cutting-edge services to the people of Ghana. The Dufo policy platform at the moment is better. They are offering nothing beyond taking pot shots and attempting to take credit unilaterally for things that he alone cannot take credit. But we are not faced by that kind of politics. We think that the discourse has to be elevated far and over above what other people want to do. So these are the options that President Mahama is tabling before the people of Ghana. And we believe that this will be well received by NDC delegates who in any event will vote for him in their mandate, because they know for sure that he has stuck with the NDC all this while. He's a visionary and he has done it before.
Okay, and as we speak, the former president is still in the Volta region.
Yes,
just before I let you go, what's next for the campaign?
Yeah, so over the next 2 days, he will be in the Volta race, after which the itinerary for the next leg of the campaign will be announced.
I'm grateful. Thanks, Felix, for joining us. Adam, let me take your thoughts before we go.
I mean, Felix claims that wishful, in my view. We've seen the former president respectfully. He's been an MP, he's been deputy minister, vice president, former president, and we saw what he did. The challenge before us is economy. And if you are looking for a leader we can trust, who when he speaks to the issues we trust and have the credibility, we don't think we need to look elsewhere. When we talk about edge gratia, we are having a leader who already offered his edge gratia and didn't take it. So you don't need vote, you need to lead by example. And Dr. Dufo promising to lead us from the front has already demonstrated on the issue of edge gratia or having people taking benefits in excess. Secondly, this is a party contest, and I insist. The NDC had been to 2 elections under the same leadership Felix and his folks wanted us to trust. And what happened? We were embarrassingly defeated in 2016. We couldn't collate results. In 2020, the same group could not collate results. So the point is, if the vehicle is not strong, your journey will be short. So for us to even implement the things they are talking about, we need to have a strong party. Reason why Dr. Dufo is situating this contest, this grassroots, saying he's going to empower them. Reason why he's investing over 10 million in the constituencies, in the project or project.
Okay, but then now John Mahama has officially declared his intention. He's in the race now. Are you going to change your strategy? Because at first we didn't get that assurance that indeed he was going to contest. Now he's made his intentions very clear. Hello, Adam? Okay, it appears we've lost Adam. Antonio Ashinyo there, who speaks for the Do For campaign, but this conversation will definitely continue. Let's